Hello, my dear students. My name is Ankit Sharma, and I welcome you all to the Primary Skills. So, in this today's video, we are going to discuss about the part 1 of Unit 4, and that is Interview Skills. ओके इससे पहले हम यूनिट 3, यूनिट 2 एंड यूनिट 1 पूरी कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं, जो कि आपकी प्लेलिस्ट में अवेलेबल है. उसका लिंक भी आपको आपकी डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में दिया गया है. तो आइए देखते हैं हमारा इंटरव्यू स्किल्स वाली इस यूनिट का सिलेबस क्या है. सो इस यूनिट में यूनिट 4 है बेसिकली ये. इस यूनिट 4 में आपका इंटरव्यू स्किल्स, आप ग्रुप डिस्कशन के बारे में यहाँ पे पढ़ेंगे, आर्ग्यूमेंटेशन स्किल्स के बारे में यहाँ पे आप पढ़ेंगे. देन यू वुड टॉक अबाउट क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, you will talk about effective business communication competence, and there are much more different topics. But in this today's unit, we are going to discuss only about the interview skills. This video is basically very important for you because यहाँ पे केवल interview skills के theory के बारे में हम बात नहीं करेंगे. We would also talk about some practical skills. Okay, so please watch very carefully and try to understand the concepts. Interview skills. The first question which arises is, what is an interview? तो इंटरव्यू क्या है, इसको समझने के लिए आइए एक बार थोड़ा सा पढ़ते हैं. एन इंटरव्यू इज अ फेस टू फेस कॉन्वर्सेशन बिटवीन द इंटरव्यूअर एंड द इंटरव्यूई, वेयर द इंटरव्यूअर सीक्स रिप्लाई फ्रॉम द इंटरव्यूई फॉर चूजिंग अ पोटेंशियल ह्यूमन रिसोर्स. डेफिनेशन बिल्कुल क्लियर है कि एक फेस टू फेस कॉन्वर्सेशन होता है एक इंटरव्यूअर और इंटरव्यूई के बीच में, और यहाँ पे इंटरव्यूअर जो होता है उसका मेजर ऑब्जेक्टिव होता है अपने लिए, अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए एक पोटेंशियल ह्यूमन रिसोर्स को फाइंड आउट करना. अकॉर्डिंग टू गैरी डेजलर, interview is a selection procedure designed to predict future job performance based on applicants' oral responses to oral inquiries. Generally, interviews जो होते हैं वो oral ही होते हैं. So, the interviewer will simply put oral inquiries and the interviewee would be giving simply oral responses. So, it is basically the performance analysis for the future job, the job which we are going to provide. An interview is a discussion or conversation between a potential employer and a candidate. एक इंटरव्यूअर और इंटरव्यूअर के बीच में जो एक डिस्कशन होता है, राइट, एक डिस्कशन या फिर एक कॉन्वर्सेशन जो होता है एक पोटेंशियल एम्प्लॉयर और एक कैंडिडेट के बीच में. दीज आर डिफरेंट डेफिनेशंस, आप जो चाहे वो यूज कर सकते हैं. इट इज अ सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर डिजाइन्ड दैट हेल्प एन एम्प्लॉयर अंडरस्टैंड द स्किल, scrutinize their personality and character traits and check the domain knowledge. तो यहाँ पे सिलेक्शन प्रोसीजर जो होता है, इस प्रोसीजर में मेजर ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या होता है, जो कैंडिडेट होता है उसके स्किल्स को अंडरस्टैंड करना, उसकी पर्सनालिटी और उसके कैरेक्टर्स को स्क्रूटनाइज करना और उसकी डोमेन नॉलेज को चेक करना कि वेदर दैट पर्सन इज रियली कैपेबल इनफ टू डू द जॉब इन माय ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और नॉट. Usually, interviews happen during the last phase of recruitment process and help companies select a suitable candidate for the job. So, the major objective of any interview is to find out a suitable candidate. एक suitable candidate को find out करना ही किसी भी job interview का एक सबसे बड़ा objective होता है. The interview is the most critical component of the entire selection process. Now, why critical? Because this is the selection process. इससे पहले वाले जितने भी processes होते हैं, those are considered to be the elimination process. Okay? वहां पे लोगों को eliminate किया जाता है जिससे कि हम कम से कम लोगों तक पहुंच सकें या फिर कम से कम हम अपना भीड़ को कम कर सकें, and then finally we would do the selection process to just select out of that pool of people actually. It serves as the primary means to collect additional information on an applicant. एप्लीकेंट के बारे में एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन को कलेक्ट करने का मीडियम भी इसको माना जा सकता है इंटरव्यू को. इट सर्व्स एज अ बेसिस ऑफ असेसिंग एन एप्लीकेंट्स जॉब रिलेटेड नॉलेज, स्किल एंड एबिलिटीज. So now you can find out that there are certain things which are repeating themselves. Why? Because I have written all the definitions, whichever suits you, you can utilize that. और जितने ज्यादा पॉइंट्स आपको इंटरव्यू के बारे में पता होंगे उतने आसानी से आप आंसर को लिख सकते हैं. So next coming to the objectives of an interview. एक इंटरव्यू के क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव्स होते हैं या फिर उसकी इंपॉर्टेंस क्या होती है. आपसे क्वेश्चन कैसे भी पूछा जा सकता है, आपसे पूछा जा सकता है व्हाट इज द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ इंटरव्यू, राइट. तो इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ इंटरव्यू और ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ इंटरव्यू, दे बोथ आर सेम. In an interview, the interviewer and interviewee exchange their ideas, opinion, feeling, attitude and perception toward the issue, and thus the solution of the problem becomes easy to find. यहाँ पे जब भी कभी एक इंटरव्यू होता है उसमें एक इंटरव्यूअर और इंटरव्यूई जो होते हैं वो अपने आइडियाज शेयर करते हैं, अपने ओपिनियन शेयर करते हैं, अपनी फीलिंग शेयर करते हैं, एटीट्यूड और परसेप्शन की भी वहां पे शेयरिंग होती है. सो व्हाट इंटरव्यूज डू? इंटरव्यूज नंबर 1 क्रिएट रिलेशन बिटवीन इंटरव्यूअर एंड इंटरव्यूई. जिस भी कंपनी में आप जॉब पाने जा रहे हैं या फिर जिसके लिए भी आप इंटरव्यू देने जा रहे हैं, वहां के रिक्रूटर के बीच में और आपके बीच में एक रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड होना बहुत जरूरी है. तो दिस इंटरव्यू एक्चुअली वर्क्स लाइक दैट. इट क्रिएट्स द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन एन इंटरव्यूअर एंड इंटरव्यूअर. गेन्स फीलिंग ऑफ द रिस्पोंडेंट, जो भी रिस्पोंडेंट होता है या जो भी रिस्पॉन्स कर रहा होता है उसकी फीलिंग्स को समझना, वेदर दैट पर्सन रियली फील्स कंफर्टेबल और दैट पर्सन इज गिविंग इंटरव्यू इन अ प्रेशर ऑफ समबडी. कलेक्ट इन्फॉर्मेशन अबाउट एग्जिस्टिंग सोशल प्रॉब्लम. कोई सोशल प्रॉब्लम है समाज में, अगर आप उसके बारे में अच्छे से जानना चाहते हैं तब भी आप इंटरव्यू लेते हैं. आप गांव गांव गली गली जाएंगे और आप वहां लोगों का इंटरव्यू लेंगे. क्रिएट अ सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज. अगर आप किसी चीज के बारे में एक रिसोर्स या फिर एक पूल ऑफ नॉलेज बनाना चाहते हैं तो उसके लिए भी आपको इंटरव्यू की जरूरत पड़ती है. प्रोवाइड रिच हाइपोथेसिस. जो भी आपकी हाइपोथेसिस है उसको स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए आप इंटरव्यू का यूज करते हैं. Observe the situation quickly. If you really want to understand the situation properly, then interview is the best method. Collect additional information. Reduce the distance between human beings. If you really want to come closer or if you really want to establish relationship, आपने देखा होगा media interviews, business interviews, ये जितने भी interviews होते हैं, their main objective is to bring bring the higher authority people closer to the lower authority people or closer to the middle class people. Draw qualitative fact. In order to find out some statistics and qualitative fact, you require interview and gain new knowledge about an area. So if you really want to just have a new knowledge or deep knowledge about an area, then you can do interviews. So these are some of the important you can say objectives of interview. Always remember, when we talk about interview in general, we don't talk about only the job interviews. Job interviews are just one type of interview. Okay, there are numerous other types of interviews too, so we would also be discussing about the types of interview, then you would easily come to know about them. Coming to the importance of an interview, एक इंटरव्यू की क्या इंपॉर्टेंस होती है, ठीक है, उसके बारे में अगर हमसे पूछा जाए then we can just find out certain importances. Interview helps to verify the quality and accuracy of information obtained through application form. अगर आपने कहीं का किसी जॉब के लिए कोई एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म भरा, उसमें आपने कुछ डिटेल्स डाली, अब उन डिटेल्स को वेरीफाई करने का क्या तरीका है, उन डिटेल्स को वेरीफाई करने के लिए आई विल बी कॉलिंग यू फेस टू फेस एंड देन आई विल बी ट्राइंग टू वेरीफाई. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एन इंटरव्यू. ओके, it helps to obtain additional information from the candidate as required by the job, otherwise not available. You cannot write everything in your resume, right? Your behavioral qualities, your characteristics, your communication skills, that cannot be reflected through the resume. So resume केवल कुछ limited qualities बता सकता है. If I want to get some additional information about the candidate or about you or about your personality, then I need to interview you. It helps to provide general information to the candidate about company's policy, product, manufactured and so forth. यानी ऐसा नहीं है कि केवल इंटरव्यूअर को ही सारी इंफॉर्मेशन लेनी होती है. इफ इंटरव्यूई वांट्स और सीक्स इंफॉर्मेशन, देन इंटरव्यू इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी द बेस्ट प्लेस, बिकॉज इन इंटरव्यू at last, when the interview is over, you are given an opportunity to ask a question to the interviewer. In that case, you can ask a lot many questions about the company, about the manufacturing, about the product, about the job responsibilities. So that would be your opportunity. Then it helps to establish mutual understanding between the company and the candidate. Because you are going to work with a company, there should always be a healthy and harmonious relationship between an organization and a candidate. So for that purpose, a mutual understanding is very much important. It helps to enhance the company's image and reputation among the candidate. अगर आप किसी कंपनी में जॉब इंटरव्यू देने के लिए जा रहे हैं, if you don't know about the company, then you wouldn't have the confidence that I really want to do job in that. Because see, कंपनी की जो इमेज होती है, कंपनी की जो रेपुटेशन होती है, that gives you confidence to work into it. You want to work in BMW, you might want to work in Mercedes, but you will never be try to work in Anurag company or something like that, because that company is not reputed. Okay, so reputation really matters. So when you are in an interview, the interviewer try to establish a reputation of the company so that you can feel confident about it. Okay, so that is the importance of interview. Now we are coming to the types of interviews. So interviews on the basis of different categories can be classified in certain forms. For example, on the basis of form, interviews can be of two types: structured and unstructured. Structured interview वो होते हैं जहाँ पे step by step procedure होता है. For example, the first interview would be the technical or the domain interview. Then it would be the personal interview. Then it would be the different type of other discussion. So there would be a structure which will easily be revealed to you when you are going for an interview. Then there would be unstructured interview. Unstructured interview होते हैं कि मतलब आपको बुलाया, आपको पूछा. वॉक इन इंटरव्यूज भी unstructured interview की कैटेगरी में आते हैं. तो आपको बुलाया, आपसे कुछ भी पूछा जाएगा. There is no specific structure. Okay. देन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ नंबर ऑफ इंटरव्यूईज, जितने भी आपके इंटरव्यूईज होते हैं उनके बेसिस पे अगर हम क्लासिफाई करें, देन दे कैन बी टू टाइप्स. इंडिविजुअल इंटरव्यू, यानी यू आर द ओनली वन इन द इंटरव्यू विद द इंटरव्यूअर, and there can be the group interviews when there are 4 to 5 people interviewed simultaneously by the same interviewer, okay, or a panel of interviewer. Then come on the basis of objective. On the basis of objective, there can be different and multiple type of interviews: clinical interviews, selection interviews, diagnostic interviews and research interviews. Clinical interviews generally वो interviews होते हैं जहाँ पे आप, जैसे मान लीजिए आपको कोई psychological advice चाहिए, तो आप एक psychologist के पास जाते हैं, and that person will ask you so many questions. He will ask you about your medical history, about how you felt, some specific particular time. He can ask you that how you generally feel, what time you eat, what time you drink, and what type of feelings you have. So that is called a clinical interview, to find out the medical history in order to diagnose the current situation. Then comes the selection interview. These are also known as the job interviews. Whenever you want some selection, it may be like competitive interviews, it may be SSB selection interview, it may also be your any job interview. Then comes the diagnostic interviews. Like these are also considered to be the medical type of interviews only, when somebody is trying to diagnose the problem you are facing or diagnose the problem you are having. ये आपके कहीं पे जहाँ पे भी आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम फाइंड आउट करनी होती है, वहाँ पे आप डायग्नोस्टिक इंटरव्यूज लेते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर कोई वर्कर है, मान लीजिए एक वेंडर है, उस वेंडर ने मुझे अभी एक मशीन सेल की, लेकिन उस मशीन में मेरी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, देन दैट वेंडर विल टेक माय इंटरव्यू, डायग्नोस्टिक इंटरव्यू, दैट व्हाट टाइप ऑफ प्रॉब्लम आई एम फेसिंग, right? So in that way, that will call a diagnostic interview. Then comes the research interview. Now, whenever you are doing in your research in your post graduation or maybe like in doctorate, then you go through a research interview where you will have to reveal the details of your research or what you have done, right? So in order to defend your degree or in order to just defend your degree, basically you need to give the research interview where numerous number of questions will be asked. Then come the methods of interviews. इंटरव्यू के कितने मेथड्स हो सकते हैं, राइट? सो देयर कैन बी डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ मेथड्स. नंबर 1, बिहेवियरल इंटरव्यू. ये इन सब जो भी आपके टाइप मेथड्स ऑफ इंटरव्यूज हैं, इनको हम डिटेल में भी डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं. देन कम द केस इंटरव्यूज, स्ट्रेस इंटरव्यूज. देन कम कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड इंटरव्यूज, पैनल इंटरव्यूज एंड वीडियो और टेलीफोनिक इंटरव्यू. सो लेट्स डिस्कस देम वन बाय वन इन अ डिटेल्ड वे. Behavioral interviews. Behavioral based interviews, BBI, is used to assess how you handled a specific employment related situation in your previous job, which will help you evaluate the future performance. Now, these are also considered to be the केस टाइप ऑफ इंटरव्यूज. यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि आपको एक केस दिया जाता है, आपको एक बिजनेस सिचुएशन दी जाती है, या फिर आपसे ये पूछा जाता है कि अगर आपके पास कोई ऐसी सिचुएशन आई हो जहां पे आपके पास कोई प्रॉब्लम थी, उस सिचुएशन में आपने कैसे बिहेव किया. इस टाइप के जो क्वेश्चंस होते हैं वो आपके बिहेवियरल इंटरव्यूज कहलाते हैं. जैसे आपको कोई भी एक एग्जांपल दे दिया जाएगा कि लाइक सपोज you are a business manager in a company and you are facing this problem, then what would be your approach? So that would be called a behavioral type of interview. Okay, the difference between a behavior based interview and a traditional job interview is you are asked to describe in detail how you have dealt with a certain situation in the past that is like the one you will be encountering in the role you are interviewing for. It means like whatever job you were doing, suppose you were the production manager in the last company, and in like current company for which you are interviewing, you are also getting the job as a production manager. Now, so like production manager तो हर जगह एक ही जैसा काम करता है ना, तो वहां पे जो सिचुएशन आई होगी वो यहाँ पे भी आती होगी, तो वो आपके सामने एक सिचुएशन प्रोड्यूस करेंगे, and then they would ask you that if this problem has occurred to you ever in your previous organization, then what had been your approach. Okay. Now, examples of a behavior-based interview questions are, कैसे questions पूछे जा सकते हैं behavior-based interview में? Give me an example of a time you faced a conflict while working on a team. How did you handle that? ठीक है? Now, tell me about a time you were under a lot of pressure. What was going on and how did you get through it? Describe a time when you saw a problem and took the initiative to correct it. Now, these all are some behavior-based type of questions. And here you need to answer them in a specific pattern. Please try to understand these questions are considered to be difficult because most of the times we don't know how to answer them. So we have a specific method for answering them that is called a STAR method. So we are going to discuss about this STAR method in the later slides. Okay. ये जो STAR method है, you can use it to give answer to every behavioral type of interview. All right. Let's move further. Then come the case interview. During a case interview, you will be given a situation and asked how you would manage that specific situation or solve a business problem. Now, जो आपके बिहेवियर बेस्ड इंटरव्यू थे वो आपके रियलिस्टिक सिचुएशंस पे बेस्ड होते हैं. केस इंटरव्यूज कैन बी बेस्ड अपॉन द हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन आल्सो. फॉर एग्जांपल, in SSB, whenever you are going, they will give you a case. They will give you a case that you are standing in middle of village and now there is a hospital, there is a school, and there is a call which you are getting. So in the hospital there is a fire. The fire broke out, and in school there came a lion, and now you are getting a call that your mother is also not well and she really requires immediate medication in the hospital. Now what would be your approach? Where would you go, and like what would you do as a preference? So this is a case, a hypothetical type of situation. So this type of case can be given to you. In current like you can say in job interview type of scenario, the case can be related to the business problem only, but that may or may not be a real problem. Okay. BCG, Bain और McKinsey, जितनी भी आपकी हाई लेवल की कंपनियां होती हैं, गूगल हो गया, फेसबुक, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, BCG, IBM, McKinsey, all these company actually heavily rely on these case interview type of questions, because यहाँ से आदमी की सही personality का पता लगता है, real personality का पता लगता है कि in problem how exactly that person takes decision. Okay. Typically, it will most likely be a business scenario that you are going to encounter when working for a company. Generally, अगर आप business company के लिए, of course, most of the companies are doing business and they are business environments only. So when you are just going for such interview, तो like जो भी hypothetical situation होगी, that would be related to the business scenario only. In most instances, there isn't necessarily one right answer or indeed one way of the approaching a problem. Interviewers are looking for a structured approach that is effectively communicated. कभी भी दो लोगों के जो views होंगे ऐसे questions में या ऐसे interviews में वो same नहीं हो सकते, because everybody has got a different approach to solve a problem. They want to know your innovative approach to solve that problem. Okay, so don't try to copy anybody, because if you are copying somebody, then you might simply copy the statement but not the spirit behind that. Okay, so you need to just find out your own solution. You need to come up with your own creativity. So they are looking for your own creativity, that too in structured and effectively communicated. It is about finding a way to gain insight even when there is no obvious solution, and explaining effective processes that you would use for uncovering the underlying issues. ऐसा जरूरी भी नहीं है the problem which you are getting in the interview as a case interview, it doesn't it's not always required that it will always have a solution. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि जो प्रॉब्लम वो आपको दें उसका सॉल्यूशन ही ना हो, बट आपकी अप्रोच क्या होगी. दे आर वेरी मच इंटरेस्टेड इन नोइंग योर अप्रोच, knowing about your mindset, whether you are already like restricted about it, that there is no solution, whether you are a negative thinker or you are a positive thinker and optimistic approach person, that you will definitely go towards the solution, right? So approach is more important. Then comes the stress interviews. A stress interview, as the name indicates, is used to assess how you respond to the stress under extreme pressure. कभी-कभी क्या होता है job situation में you are under extreme pressure. In that extreme pressure, how exactly you behave and what would be your like series of actions or what would be your sequence of actions, that is simply inquired in this stress type of interview. In contrast to other interview types where hiring managers will make an effort to make you feel it easy, this is not the case during the stress interview. ये जो स्ट्रेस इंटरव्यू है, यहाँ पे जो हायरिंग मैनेजर से आपका इंटरव्यूअर जो होगा वो हमेशा ऐसे क्वेश्चन पूछने की कोशिश करेगा कि आप खुद से स्ट्रेस में आ जाएं, या फिर यू विल स्टार्ट फंबलिंग अप और हैविंग सम टेंस्ड मोमेंट. सो यू वुड बी वेरी मच नर्वस आफ्टर लाइक ड्यूरिंग आंसरिंग दीज क्वेश्चंस. During this type of interview, hiring managers will be trying to gauge how well or badly you would handle certain stressful situations at work. यहाँ पे हमें ये पता लगाने की कोशिश करता है जो इंटरव्यूअर होता है कि अगर आप स्ट्रेस में हो तो आप किस तरीके से बिहेव करेंगे. आप नॉर्मल तरीके से बिहेव करेंगे, क्या आप अपनी पर्सनालिटी को या अपनी जो नर्वसनेस है उसको आप कंट्रोल में रख सकते हैं, उस पर एक चेक रख सकते हैं या नहीं रख सकते. ठीक है. So be prepared to answer questions that range from mildly disconcerting or aggressive or even inappropriate. यहाँ पे you should be mentally prepared to answer the questions which are uncomfortable. They might ask you the question about the religion, about the politics, about some personal issues too, and they can be very much aggressive also. But you need to understand that that's why they are considered to be the stress type of questions. What can be the questions? For example, why were you fired from the last job? You might think that I was never fired from my last job, but if this is the question, then what should be the approach, right? How do you think this interview is going? Now, if you say that this interview is going bad, then probably you are not confident enough. If you're saying this interview is going good, then the interviewer can simply say, according to you, it may be going good, but not according to me. Then it might put you into a nervous situation. In the same way, how would you deal with a coworker that you caught stealing? There's a person who is stealing something. Now you need to deal with that person. So in that situation, what's happening? Like, you will have to think a little bit out of the box. You'll have to give a solution where you're not compromising with your values. Also, you are being empathetic to the another person, or you are actually taking care of the interest of other person and the organization too. Okay, so these are called the stress interviews. The key to handling this type of interview is to remain calm. The very first part is, जब भी आप इस type के questions आपसे पूछे जाएं, please be calm. Okay, because that's not the real situation, that's a hypothetical one. So you need to make yourself calm. While it can be challenging to remain calm during this type of job interview, as it feels like interview is personally out to get you, there are a number of techniques that you can use to ace such stress interviews, such as clarifying the question, requesting more details, and telling a story that make your point. So like, whenever you are having such type of questions, and if you don't know how to go about it, take your time. There is a smart way of taking time. कैसे ले सकते हैं आप time? Clarify. Try to ask him, sir, would you please clarify the question a little bit more? In this way, although you have already clarified and understood the question, but the moment he starts clarifying the question, you have got some time, you have bought your time to just think about it. In the same way, also request more details about the question, or you can actually tell a story about a hypothetical story in order to answer the question of interviewer. Okay, the story can be hypothetical because storytelling is always considered to be the best method to answer, right? Then comes competency based interviews. Competency means your capability, your potential, your abilities. So whenever some interviewer want to check that what exactly is the competence level of this person, then they organize these competency based interviews, right? So here generally the major purpose is to assess your soft skills and interpersonal competencies. वहाँ पे हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम आपकी जो है, जो भी इंटरव्यूअर है वो कोशिश करता है कि वो सॉफ्ट स्किल्स और इंटरपर्सनल कॉम्पिटेंसीज को जज करे. जनरली कौन से स्किल्स होते हैं जो आपके जज किए जाते हैं या फिर इवेल्युएट किए जाते हैं कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड इंटरव्यूज में? वैसे तो ये डिपेंड करता है आपके लाइक डोमेन टू डोमेन, कौन से डोमेन के लिए आप इंटरव्यू दे रहे हैं. तो एवरी डोमेन हैज डिफरेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक रिक्वायरमेंट, बट जनरली जो यूनिवर्सल वैल्यूज या यूनिवर्सल क्वालिटीज जो होती हैं, जो रिक्वायर्ड होती हैं, वो होती हैं आपका कम्युनिकेशन, डिसाइसिवनेस, लीडरशिप, टीम वर्क एंड रेजिलियंस. ओके, दीज आर द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स which are generally required. Hiring managers will be asking you questions in relation to your behavior in specific circumstances which you should back up with example. आपको यहाँ पे भी जनरली आजकल जो है वो केस स्टडी या फिर आपके बिहेवियरल टाइप के क्वेश्चन ही ज्यादा पूछे जाते हैं. तो जब भी कभी इस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस आपसे यहाँ पे पूछे जाएंगे तो आप अपनी कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स का यूटिलाइजेशन वहां पे अपने आंसर के माध्यम से दिखाएंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हाट कैन बी द क्वेश्चन? Which change of job did you find the most difficult to make? Okay, so like, what was the job change which was very difficult for you? Here what you need to do, you need to tell about your adaptability. Adaptability is the flexibility basically. This is also considered to be the very important characteristic of an employee. In this way, tell us about a situation where your communication skills made a difference to a situation. Here you need to demonstrate your communication skills capability. Then how do you feel writing a report differs from preparing an oral presentation? Here the understanding of the nuances of the written and oral communication are considered to be evaluated. Okay, so there can be different types of questions where the qualities and the characteristics can be evaluated. Then come the panel interviews. During a panel interview, you will be interviewed by multiple interviewers from the same organization and or an external company. यहाँ पे क्या होता है, आपका जनरली जो इंटरव्यूअर होता है वो एक ही होता है, लेकिन पैनल इंटरव्यू में आपके 4 या 5 इंटरव्यूअर्स होते हैं डिफरेंट डोमेन से. जनरली ऐसे इंटरव्यूज जो होते हैं वो आपके यूपीएससी में या फिर आपके जो गवर्नमेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस होते हैं वहां पे आपके ऑर्गेनाइज किए जाते हैं. उसका रीजन क्या होता है कि लाइक दे आर एक्सपर्ट ऑफ डिफरेंट डोमेन्स, सो साइमल्टेनियसली दे आर एक्चुअली इवेल्युएटिंग the candidate from different perspective or different angles. Okay, so out of them one may be psychologist who can actually who actually take care or who actually look in your personality, the non-verbal communication or non-verbal cues. Okay, there can be one person who would be the communication expert, who would be like thinking or who would be just simply evaluating your communication skills. One can be the domain specific, maybe a mechanical engineer, maybe electrical engineer, who would be simply looking at your skills of your specific domain. So they can be different people. The goal of this type of interview is to minimize the risk of a bad hire. It means अगर एक व्यक्ति किसी को इंटरव्यू लेता है, किसी का इंटरव्यू लेता है, तो उससे गलती हो सकती है, लेकिन 4 या 5 व्यक्ति एक साथ अगर किसी बंदे का इंटरव्यू लेते हैं, तो ऑब्वियस सी बात है दैट कैंडिडेट वुड बी गुड इनफ. Panel interview questions will be varying depending upon the company and the position you are applying for. So if you are applying for a lower, you can say level, then of course panel interview will be less common. But if you're going for the higher position, then probably panel interviews would be inevitable. Okay, questions can be: how would a colleague describe you, right? Why do you want to work for us? Why should we hire you? So these are just some of the questions. There can be different other questions. Telephonic or video interviews. Nowadays, the telephonic and video interviews are the only methods of interview. Most of the times they are only preferred. Face-to-face interviews are just like obsolete nowadays. Okay, so video telephonic interviews में थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्टी लोगों को इसलिए आती है बिकॉज पीपल आर नॉट वेरी मच वेल वर्स्ड विद द सॉफ्टवेयर और वेल वर्स्ड विद द नेटिकेट्स, बेसिकली द एटिकेट्स व्हिच आर रिक्वायर्ड ऑन इंटरनेट, एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स at times become hurdle in front of the capable or the potential candidate too. Okay, so we need to just like have certain tips and tricks in order to just clear these telephonic and video interviews. We would be talking about them also, but first of all, let's understand what this video or telephonic interview is. Video and remote interview, when the applicant and interviewer are separated by a distance, have become much more common. So if you're sitting in India and if you're giving an interview in California, it's quite okay, no problem. You can just go through Zoom, like Google Meet or any other video software. Video interviews can either be with the hiring manager or a recruiter, and they can be either in person or on demand. हायरिंग मैनेजर के साथ भी हो सकते हैं, रिक्रूटर के साथ भी हो सकते हैं. इन पर्सन मतलब लाइव भी हो सकते हैं, सामने कोई लाइव व्यक्ति बैठा हो, या फिर ऑन डिमांड हो सकते हैं. ऑन डिमांड का मतलब क्या होता है? द रिक्रूटर कैन आस्क यू और गिव यू सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. व्हाट यू नीड टू डू, you need to record your videos like answering those questions and send that video specifically to the recruiter, and later on the person can just watch the video and can analyze like what exactly is your skill or what exactly is your skill set, right? Interviewing in this way allows the hiring organization to tap into a wider, more diverse pool of talent. तो यहाँ पे उनके पास काफी टाइम होता है. They can be flexibly go through the like all on-demand interviews, and they can just like find out or select some of the best candidates who have given their on-demand interview properly. Remote interviews come with their own challenges, and you want to make sure you are literally set up the best way possible to ensure your interview runs smoothly with any avoidable glitches. Always remember, if you really want to excel in the video interviews, there are certain number of tips which you need to keep in mind. Number one, do a trial run, which is also known as a dry run. So like whenever you are going to give an interview, always do it with your friend. Try to just make it a mock interview. Try to just find out whether mic is working, video is working, it's working fine or not, your internet connection is working, are you using the right software. So please do that checklist. Then check your webcam and microphone. Always remember, this is the most usual type of glitch, technical glitch, which generally come like your interview starts and you are fiddling up with your mic and fiddling up with your camera. कभी आपका कैमरा नहीं चल रहा है, कभी आपका माइक नहीं चल रहा है, कभी आपकी वॉइस क्लियर नहीं आ रही है. So उससे क्या होता है कि like it doesn't leave a good impression over the employer or over the interviewer. That person can consider you irresponsible because you are not already ready for the interview or you are not taking it seriously. Then coming to checking the background. Always remember, whenever you are sitting or whenever you are actually appearing for the interview, always make sure that your background is absolutely noise free. Try to lock yourself into a room. Try to just ask everybody to remain silent at least for 1.5 hours or like maybe like 1 hour, so that the interview can go smoothly without any interruption. Then remote interview attire. Be presentable. कुछ लोगों को लगता है कि भाई remote interview है, so why to like dress myself up in suit and all. But guys, please understand, आपकी ड्रेस का या फिर आपके अटायर का सीधा सीधा कनेक्शन आपके कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ होता है. So if you're having a good attire, if you are like presenting yourself in a perfect way, there can be two benefits. Number one, you would be presenting yourself as a responsible candidate, that you are actually taking the opportunity very seriously. Number two, your confidence will boost up. When you dress yourself up in a formal way or in a like proper tip-top way, then what happens? Your confidence really jumps, and that way you can ensure your success. Next, remote interview. Next is, there is a good chance that you won't need to stand up during this interview type. However, it's better to safe than sorry. Make sure you dress appropriately. So please don't do that mistake that you are wearing only the white shirt and the tie, and below that you are actually having a shorts. No, it may be possible that the interviewer asks you to stand up and present yourself. In that situation, it would be very embarrassing. Okay, so dress yourself completely. Then comes your phone interviews. Phone interviews can often be one of the first step in your interview process. कभी भी जो interview process होता है उसमें phone interview सबसे पहला step होता है. सबसे पहले आपको call ही आती है. So that is also called your phone interview. तो जब आपको पहली बार call आ रही है, don't consider it an informal call. It's part of an interview only. More and more companies are carrying out pre-interview telephonic screening बिफोर इन्वाइटिंग द पर्सन टू फेस इंटरव्यू. देखिए, सबको अगर फेस टू फेस इंटरव्यू के लिए बुला लिया जाएगा, वहां पे बहुत भीड़ इकट्ठी हो जाएगी. तो टेलीफोनिक इंटरव्यू में हम सबसे पहले स्क्रीनिंग करने की कोशिश करते हैं दैट ओनली दोज पीपल शुड बी कॉल्ड अप who are really eligible or who have got the at least basic characteristics, basic abilities. For example, if my job requires good communication skill, so communication skills can be judged only on the phone, right? So I will be simply calling him and I would ask him certain number of questions, and then I can judge whether the person is really capable of communicating well or not. Good enough. Cut out the distractions. So like when you're talking over the phone, always remember, always try to cut out the distractions. There should not be any distractions in the phone interview. Don't try to just give your interview. Don't try to just face any telephonic interview while you are just passing through the busy road or there's so many vehicles honking behind you. If there is such a situation, please ask politely to the interviewer, sir, right now I'm in the market or I'm really busy at this moment. If you would allow me, I can join you after 15 minutes or 20 minutes so that I can put myself into some comfortable situation. So believe me, no interviewer will mind these things because it's very difficult to just face a telephonic interview, on a busy road or in somewhere where so many vehicles are honking. Then speak clearly. Whenever you are speaking, please speak very clearly. Don't be too fast. If you are going too fast, nobody can understand you properly. Okay? Take a break between the questions and think about what you want to say. Whenever there is a question asked to you, always try to understand. Do not start immediately. Take at least 2 to 3 seconds to just think about it. Only then you can just give the answer in a proper way. Then listen and do not dominate the conversation. Always be an active listener. Active listener is always appreciated. So if you are going for the conversation, if you are going for the interview, be an active listener. The moment you stop listening or the moment you start speaking, you don't listen to the interviewer. So listening to interviewer is very important. Below are some questions that you can prepare for in advance of the phone screening. Whenever there is a phone interview, you can expect these type of questions. Although these are very normal questions only, right? So, but just for the sake of example, I have written, tell me something about yourself and your experience. This is the best question which can be asked to evaluate your communication skills. ये question केवल तभी पूछा जाता है जब जनरली इंटरव्यूअर को आपके communication skills के बारे में पता करना हो. Because अपने बारे में सब कुछ बताने के लिए आपको communication skills आपके अच्छे होने जरूरी हैं. ठीक है? Why do you want to work at this company in particular? They can ask you the basic question. Can you share any experience of how you managed a team? If team management is the prerequisite or the necessary requirement of an organization, they would be asking you this question in the elimination round only. Okay? Now, here comes the most important part, what employers seek through interviews. अब एक जो employer है, जब वो आपका interview ले रहा है, तो वो क्या चाहता है आपसे? What are the qualities? Although these qualities are very much dependent upon the job description, always remember to go through the job description very carefully. जो भी आपकी क्वालिटीज रिक्वायर्ड हैं एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया में, वो बिल्कुल क्लियरली लिखी होते हैं. लेकिन फिर भी कुछ ऐसी यूनिवर्सल क्वालिटीज होती हैं जो कि लिखी नहीं जाती कहीं पे भी, बट दे आर ऑलवेज एसेंशियली रिक्वायर्ड बाय ऑल द एम्प्लॉयर्स. सो व्हाट आर दोज यूनिवर्सल क्वालिटीज? Number 1, confidence. You should be confident enough about anything, whatever you are doing. Your communication skills should be good. Always remember, having proficiency in language and communication skills are different thing. आप इंग्लिश में fully expert हो सकते हैं, बट फिर भी आपका communication skill अच्छा नहीं हो सकता, right? और ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि आप लैंग्वेज में बहुत ही इंटरमीडिएट हैं, आप केवल अच्छे से कम्युनिकेट कर पाते हैं, लेकिन आपका जो कम्युनिकेशन स्टाइल है वो बढ़िया है, बहुत अच्छा है. तो लैंग्वेज प्रोफिशिएंसी का कम्युनिकेशन से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. लैंग्वेज प्रोफिशिएंसी केवल कम्युनिकेशन को थोड़ा सा फैसिलिटेट करने की कोशिश करती है, बट कम्युनिकेशन लैंग्वेज प्रोफिशिएंसी के बिना भी अच्छा हो सकता है. But I always recommend that language proficiency will definitely give you an extra edge in communicating better. Next is adaptability or flexibility. Next is growth mindset. You should always be looking for the growth. You should not be discouraged by the problem statements, or you should not be discouraged by the challenges. Then comes the positive attitude. You should always have a positive outlook for everything. Team spirit. You should not be a person who loves to work in like isolation, or who loves to work individually. You should always learn how to work in a team. In the global world, every organization is working globally. So there are different people, one from Australia, one from UK, one from New Zealand, one from South Africa. All of them are actually working together. So in that situation, you need to have the team spirit. And if you don't have the team spirit, you would not be able to survive in a company. Then comes the time management. In professional organization or whether in a personal life, time management is always very important. अगर आपके पास time management का sense नहीं है, then you would not be able to manage time and you would not be able to do justice to your job. Problem solving mindset. आपके दिमाग में प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने का सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेशन होना चाहिए. प्रॉब्लम ओरिएंटेशन है, ये नहीं कि कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आई एंड देन यू आर आस्किंग द अनदर क्वेश्चन हाउ टू डू इट. You should always try to solve that problem. And in order to solve that problem, what you need to do, you need to have the positive outlook and the problem solving mindset. Then comes the decision making ability. Always remember, if you don't have decision making ability, you would not be able to make the decisions at the right time. And then comes the creative and critical thinking. You need to have that critical thinking. You need to look at one thing or one idea from different perspective or different dimensions. If there is some message you are getting on WhatsApp and without even thinking about it, you are forwarding it to somebody else, then probably you are not a critical thinker. Critical thinker means whatever information you are getting, you should always try to think about that information from different angles and try to find out whether this information is really correct or not. Then comes empathy. Empathy means thinking about other people or taking care of the feeling of other people. When you enter into the shoes of other people, you are called empathetic. Always try to be empathetic towards other people. Then comes responsibility, whether you really take responsibility seriously or not. If you don't take responsibility, don't consider yourself an employer material or a job material. Okay, you would not be able to get a good job if you don't consider your responsibility seriously. So these are some of the characteristics which generally interviewers look for, which generally recruiters look for. So these all collectively are called soft skills. Now we are coming for the interview preparation strategies. Preparing for an interview is crucial. Always find the time. You could end up regretting it for the rest of the life otherwise. Always remember, if an interview is approaching, please try to prepare for it. Don't be overconfident that I'm already prepared and I can excel through it, I can just do it, fold dalunga, ye karunga. No, nothing like that. Always remember, preparation always beat the talent. If somebody is talented and if you are a hard worker, then hard work always beat the talent in any given situation. So you need always that practice strategy. An interview is an opportunity to present yourself in the best possible way to a prospective employer. It is necessary that you head into the interview fully prepared. Now it becomes your responsibility. If you don't prepare, then the first thing you are reflecting is that you are irresponsible. You are not taking the responsibility of the interview. So if you really want to take responsibility, if you really want to demonstrate the responsibility factor, please prepare for the interview. So now the preparation of interview depends depends upon the variety of factors. It depends upon the industry to industry. It also depends upon the job description, but there can be some specific structure to that interview preparation. The key here is to gather as much information as possible about the interview format well in advance. If you haven't had much from the hiring manager or person responsible for your application, speaking to your recruiter will give you invaluable insight into the typical interviews your prospective new employer conducts. Always remember, before interview, it becomes your responsibility to know everything about the job which you are applying for. अगर आपके पास कोई ऐसी information नहीं है, then it becomes again your responsibility to find out that information. यहाँ तक कि अगर आपको recruiter को भी call करके पूछना पड़े, then it's okay, because if you are calling, that person would be more than happy to help you out because you are genuinely showing interest in knowing about his company. So stages of interview preparation. So now we are going to talk about the 3 stages of interview preparation. We would discuss the interview preparation in 3 stages. Number 1, pre-interview. number 2 during interview, and number 3 post interview. So let's talk about the pre-interview stage. In the pre-interview stage, the first step comes reading job description. Whenever you are applying for a job, always remember to go through the job description as deeply as possible, as thoroughly as possible. Because most of the time what happens, we see the title of the job, हमने title देखा job का और हमने उसको apply कर दिया. No, always remember to go through the entire document, the nitty-gritties, the essential requirements, the eligibility criteria, everything you need to go through. Because until and unless you understand the job description or you understand the requirement of the job, you would not be able to get through the job. Okay, so what a job description include? A job description actually includes the job, about the job, the company, what employer is looking for, and the specifications of the application process. So please go through the job description very carefully. Thoroughly reading every job description, noting certain information and using it in a right way can not only lower the number of applications you need to submit to land a job, but also increase your chances of getting interviews, help you prepare for those interviews, and ensure you can make an informed decision about whether the job is right for you or not. Always remember, whenever you are applying for a job and if you get a job, and unfortunately if the job is not of your type, you would be very much frustrated with the job. केवल जॉब को अटेन करना ही ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं होना चाहिए, जॉब में सस्टेन करना और जॉब में सर्वाइव करना या जॉब में थ्राइव करना भी आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव होना चाहिए. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस, स्टूडेंट्स हु आर देयर इन फाइनल ईयर, व्हाट दे डू, जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ गेटिंग जॉब दे जॉइन एनी कंपनी, एनी गिवन कंपनी. कोई भी उनको जॉब दे रहा है वो जॉब पकड़ लेते हैं, लेकिन 1 महीने के बाद, 2 महीने के बाद, 3 महीने के बाद क्या होता है, दे स्टार्ट फीलिंग फ्रस्ट्रेटेड अबाउट इट, दे डोंट फाइंड देमसेल्फ एबल टू कॉन्सेंट्रेट इन द जॉब. व्हाट इज द यूज ऑफ दैट जॉब? Even your experience will not be considered because you're not performing well over there. So please try to understand, reading job description becomes very important if you really want to get your desirable job. Okay. Another important thing, that if you read the job description properly, you don't need to apply many jobs, because when you're applying wholeheartedly. And when you're applying wholeheartedly, believe me, your resume will be selected. Because resume, at times it will happen that you are sending resume to 100 companies but you are getting response only for 10 companies. It's because you are applying for all the jobs just for the sake of applying. So please try to understand, reading job description becomes very, very important. Then points to remember while reading job description, क्या क्या आपको याद रखना चाहिए? Read beyond the job title. Do not read only the job title and apply. Don't rush for applying. Take your time, read the entire document, read between the lines, try to understand what the job description demands. Make note of the company culture and job roles. Always try to make note that what exactly the culture of the company is, what would be your roles and responsibilities. Pay careful attention to the job requirement. What are the requirements of the job? Whether they want you to work in the night shift, and if they want you to work in the night shift, would you be able to do the justice to your family and relationship? So try to understand, try to just make the balance between both of them. At times what happens, like you're applying for a job, you don't understand that they actually want you to work in the rotating shift. And when you join the job, they ask you that you need to come in evening. You say, I don't want to. In that situation, it becomes a conflict of understanding or conflict of interest. So please try to understand, reading job requirement is very important. Next, number 2 comes the company and employer research. Always remember, this is the secret weapon that will give you a huge advantage during an interview. Most of the times people go there prepared about themselves, but they don't even think about the company. Please try to understand, you are going to the company, you're going to the organization to get a job in there. It's your responsibility to know everything about the employer, everything about the company, everything about the employees, if possible, the existing employees of that company. Because the more you research about the company, the more you get insight about the company, you would be able to answer the questions confidently. आपको पहले से ही बहुत कुछ पता होगा उस कंपनी के बारे में. So that will give you an extra edge. So what can you learn from about the prospective employer? The skills and experience of the company value. कंपनी की वैल्यूज क्या है, स्किल और एक्सपीरियंस क्या है कंपनी के लोगों का, की प्लेयर्स कौन है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के, हु इज द सीईओ, हु इज द मैनेजर, कंपनी के बारे में रिसेंट न्यूज जो है या फिर जो भी उसके एम्प्लॉयर के बारे में रिसेंट न्यूज है, कंपनी का कल्चर, मिशन, वैल्यूज, क्लाइंट प्रोडक्ट और सर्विसेज क्या है, इनसाइड स्कूप, जैसे ग्लास डोर करके एक वेबसाइट है जहां से आप कंपनी के इंटरनल मैटर्स के बारे में काफी कुछ जान सकते हैं. एंड इफ पॉसिबल ट्राई टू नो समथिंग अबाउट द पर्सनल इंटरव्यूइंग यू, द एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन, Believe me, it happened with me even. When you try to understand the job, the qualification and the personality traits through the LinkedIn of that person who is interviewing you, you feel at ease, you feel comfortable. If the person, you know that the person is from IIM, then you can estimate that what type of questions he would be asking or what type of communication skills he would be having. So you can have a good understanding of the personality of the person taking your interview. Okay, so in this way, employer research, potential research, or the company research is very much required. Then comes your resume. Always try to understand your resume is your statement about yourself, is something like a quotation from your side. You are going to sell yourself and your resume is the quotation. So quotation cannot have flaws. Always try to understand that resume is a dynamic statement. No matter if you are applying for 5 jobs in a day, every single time the resume will be updated. Do not make a mistake of just sending the same resume to all the companies, because every company, every job has a different requirement. तो आपका रिज्यूमे उस जॉब रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से ही बना होना चाहिए. तो जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन को पढ़िए, जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन में जो भी कीवर्ड्स वहां पे यूज हुए हैं, ट्राई टू अपडेट एंड अपग्रेड योर रिज्यूमे अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट स्पेसिफिक जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन. ट्राई टू पुट दोज क्वालिटीज which you of course already possess, but try to highlight those qualities which are required in the job. Read your resume thoroughly. Always try to ask every single question about every single statement and information in your resume. Try to use 5W and 1H. 5W and 1H means what, why, when, where, who, and how. To ask the questions from your own resume. If you have written a quality that empathy is my characteristic, then ask what is empathy, why empathy is required, when empathy is required, where do I show empathy, who should I show empathy, and how should I show empathy. So all these questions can be asked. Then keep your resume error-free, accurate, and to the point and brief. Grammatical error should be absolutely avoided. Apart from that, every other type of error should be avoided. Try to make your resume at least like 1 page, maximum 1 page. If you are actually exceeding and you can't help it, don't ever go beyond 2 pages. Nobody is actually going to read resume more than 2 pages. Okay. Remember, most of your questions would be asked from your resume only. Hence, you must know your resume inside out. आपके resume के बारे में आपको सब कुछ पता होना चाहिए. उसी में से maximum interview लिया जाता है. Minimize pre-interview stress. अब आपको obvious सी बात है, जब इंटरव्यू होने वाला होता है तो इंटरव्यू से पहले स्ट्रेस होता है. तो उस स्ट्रेस को रिमूव करने के लिए प्लीज ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड, डू नॉट ओवरथिंक इट. ठीक है. डोंट keep thinking about it, what will happen in the interview, what will happen in the interview, कैसे क्वेश्चन पूछे जाएंगे, क्या होगा. Don't overthink it. Okay, so like still there are certain ways that you can prepare yourself. What are these? Number 1, start your preparation early. Always try to start preparing early. जितना जल्दी आप प्रिपरेशन करना स्टार्ट करेंगे, उतना ज्यादा आप अच्छा महसूस करेंगे, उतना ज्यादा आप कॉन्फिडेंट महसूस करेंगे. कॉमन क्वेश्चंस के जो आंसर होते हैं उनको पहले से प्रिपेयर करके रखिए. Have your outfit all planned and try it on the day beforehand to make sure you are presentable. जो भी आप अपना आउटफिट उस दिन पहनना चाहते हैं, जो भी आप उस दिन पहनना चाहते हैं as a formal dress, please try to keep it prepared in the very early stage only. Then the day before interview, try to get a good night's sleep. Always try to take a deep sleep before the night, before the interview's day. On the morning of interview, remember to eat breakfast. It happens that you are nervous, so you don't feel hungry, but it's okay. Try to have at least something in your breakfast, because at times if you're feeling hungry while there is an interview, you would not be able to concentrate upon the interview, and that would be your bad. Arrive early, about 30 minutes before you were told to get there. If your time is 9:30, please make sure to be there at 9, so that you can just like walk here and there. You can just have a feeling of the place. You can also feel comfortable with the place, with the people around there. So it will give you a boost of confidence. It will give you you can say a feeling of relaxation. Then interview preparation and practice. How to go about the interview preparation and practice? Practice your answer the way you are planning to face interview through mock interviews. Always try to go through the mock interviews if possible. मॉक इंटरव्यूज में पार्टिसिपेट कीजिए. वो आपको एक प्रॉपर फ्लेवर देते हैं कि इंटरव्यू किस तरीके से होता है, और उससे आपको एनालाइज भी होता है, आपको फीडबैक मिलता है, कंस्ट्रक्टिव फीडबैक कि आपको कहां पे इंप्रूव करना है, एंड दे कैन मेक यू मोर कॉन्फिडेंट. Remember, preparation always keep you ahead of others. Never underestimate the importance of systematic performance analysis and practice sessions. If you really want to get successful, Never skip your practice sessions. Nail the first impression. Now we are coming to the during interview stage. This was all the pre-interview stage. Now it is the during interview stage. So first step during interview stage is nail the first impression. Always remember, it takes only 5 to 7 seconds to make the very first impression in an interview. So if your interviewer is like looking at you for the first 5 to 7 seconds, always try to give your best. Your first encounter with your interview will likely to set the tone for the whole interview and could potentially influence the outcome of whether you are successful or not. So only the initial 5 to 7 seconds can actually make the statement whether you are going to be successful or not. But it's not always the case. But why to take risk? If we can improve our first impression, we should do that. Okay? Warmly greet them, make eye contact, and crucially remember to smile. Always remember, whenever you are going for an interview, eye contact, greeting them, and smile, all are very important. Okay? Non-verbal cues are as important as verbal ones and are vital in how you come across. जितने भी आपके non-verbal cues हैं, आपकी body language, please try to make it good, because when there is a like lack of coordination between verbal and non-verbal communication, then the message goes wrong, and generally you are not considered to be very much reliable. Prepare for the most expected interview questions. Generally interview questions हमेशा सेम नहीं होंगे, लेकिन कुछ interview के questions ऐसे होते हैं जो generally सेम ही होते हैं, तो always be prepared for them. For example, some of them may be, tell me something about yourself. This is the most important, the very first question you would be ever facing in any interview, right? So always be very much prepared for this. रटना नहीं है, but try to analyze your personality, try to understand what you want to tell, okay? And do not read the resume only. Don't tell everything which is written on a resume. There must be something. I would be making a like different series on just like preparing for the interview. So there you can actually go through that how exactly you can prepare for interview. But right now I can tell you that do not read the resume and answer in response to this question. What are your strengths and weaknesses? People must know about the strengths and weaknesses. What have you been? What have been your major achievement in your life? You must know what's your achievement. Tell me about a difficult situation you encountered at work and how you dealt with it. It's a behavioral type of question. Why do you want to join us? Why do you want to leave the current job? And what makes you different from all other candidates here? Now, coming to the STAR method. Whenever you are going to answer the question of any behavioral type of interview or any specific interview question, always remember to use the STAR method. Now, STAR method is such an important method that if you don't know how to answer the question, it can always help you. ठीक है, तो कैसे हेल्प करता है स्टार मेथड का मतलब क्या है? सबसे पहले हम ये समझ लेते हैं. एस का मतलब होता है सिचुएशन, टी मतलब टास्क, ए मतलब एक्शन और आर मतलब रिजल्ट. तो सबसे पहले जब भी कभी आप कोई आंसर देना चाहें तो सबसे पहले सिचुएशन बताइए. सेट द सीन. व्हाट वाज द सिचुएशन यू आर गोइंग टू डिस्क्राइब? फॉर एग्जांपल, आई कैन गिव यू एन एग्जांपल दैट मुझसे क्वेश्चन पूछा गया कि लाइक व्हाट वाज द करंट चैलेंज यू फेस्ड एंड हाउ एग्जैक्टली यू कोप इट और हाउ एग्जैक्टली यू फाउंड द सॉल्यूशन. सो आई विल सेट अ सीन. Sir, in my previous company, I was a production manager, and as a production manager, I had near about 20 people in my team. All the 20 people were really doing good job, but there were 4 people who actually were creating huge problem. And this was the scene. Now come to the task or challenge which you are having. Describe the purpose, objective, or the challenge. Now my challenge is that those 4 people were creating huge problem in my team, and that's why my team was not able to coordinate properly and the productivity was suffering. So my challenge was to just make them align with the common objectives and ethical values of the team. It was my challenge. Now, what was the action or solution step I took? So explain what you did to solve the problem. So what I started counseling them individually. I started talking to them, and then I started finding out what the personal problem they were facing. And then I came to know that they were actually having some, you can say, relationship sort of problem or some personal sort of problems. So here it is a solution that what I tried, I actually started helping them out on a personal level, and then they started performing well. Okay, then comes the result. After doing this diagnostic or after doing this solution, what I observed that those people started contributing to the team and they started feeling really good. So in this way, what you can understand, you can see that there is a situation which I started in the very beginning. Then there is a task, मैंने challenge के बारे में बताया, then मैंने action या solution के बारे में बताया, and then finally मैंने उनको result के बारे में बताया. तो यहाँ पे मैं अपने आंसर को पूरी तरीके से फ्रेम कर सकता हूँ. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे वो लिखा भी है सिचुएशन में you give some context about the recent challenge or situation which you found yourself in. Then you talk about the challenge which was in front of you. Then you talk about the solution, and then finally talk about the result or the outcome of that specific situation. In this way, you can always answer any question. Tips for online or video-based interview. Always remember, ये हम पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं कि आपका जो ऑनलाइन और वीडियो बेस्ड इंटरव्यू अगर हो रहा है तो उसमें कुछ टिप्स आपको याद रखने हैं. ऑलवेज प्रैक्टिस विद अ फ्रेंड. एक फ्रेंड के साथ हमेशा प्रैक्टिस करने की कोशिश कीजिए सो दैट यू कैन कम टू नो वेदर सॉफ्टवेयर एंड एवरीथिंग इज वर्किंग रियली वेल और नॉट. देन बी वेरी मच कंफर्टेबल विद द टेक्नोलॉजी और द सॉफ्टवेयर और द टूल विच यू आर सपोज टू यूटिलाइज. अगर जूम पे आपको कॉल आने वाली है देन बी वेरी मच अवेयर अबाउट द कंट्रोल्स ऑफ जूम. अगर गूगल मीट के बारे में गूगल मीट पे आपकी मीटिंग होने वाली है देन बी वेरी मच अवेयर अबाउट द गूगल मीट. Which control what does what. Okay, sometimes some awkward situation occurs. Are you speaking too loudly or softly? Try to identify. कहीं आप बहुत तेज तो नहीं बोल रहे हैं, कहीं आप बहुत धीरे तो नहीं बोल रहे हैं, क्या आपकी पेस एकदम ठीक है, पिक्चर क्लियर है, रूम एक्सेप्टेबल है, like all these type of things. Then turn off your phone. Always remember to turn off your phone. Do not turn on your phone in any way because it really becomes very you can say frustrating for interviewer that he's asking you a question and you are looking at your phone. Then look at the camera rather than the computer screen. Digital world में virtual meetings में eye contact एक बहुत बड़ी problem होती है. So like we actually look at the screen जहाँ पे सामने वाला व्यक्ति दिख रहा होता है. But in order to establish the eye contact or let other person know that we are looking into his eyes, we should look into the camera. It becomes a little bit difficult, but with practice you can actually inculcate that skill into yourself. So whenever you are answering the question, always look into the camera, the position of camera, where the camera is. Okay, look into that camera. It will give the impression to the another person or the interviewer that you are looking into the eyes. Then put your computer at least 2 feet away from you. Always remember when you are opening up your video camera, always put your computer or the camera at least 2 feet away from you. Some people keep it at very close to face. So only the face is visible. No, it should not be done. This comes into the very important netiquette. Keep at least 2 feet away your camera. Because when you keep your camera 2 feet away, your body posture, your gesture, your facial expression, everything is visible. And the interviewer can analyze easily and can actually look at the overall, you can say scenario or overall gesture posture set of your body. So that would be very comfortable for that person or you would be considered to be very much reliable. Always be aware that non-verbal listening cues become more prominent in the web-based interviews. Your non-verbal communication skills become more important because when you are in physical environment, so there can be different things which can be analyzed, but in virtual world, non-verbal communication play a very important role. So be very much aware about your body language, about your facial expressions, about hand gestures. Do use your hands. अपने hands को use करो, उनको gesture की तरह से उनको use करो. Then once initial introductions have taken place, take a moment to confirm that the voice and picture is coming through clearly. You can at least confirm once or twice that I am clear or I am audible and my picture is clear. There is nothing wrong in asking about it. Okay, so like ask the interviewer, sir, if there is any problem with the voice or there is any problem with the picture, please do stop me and do let me know so that I can correct it. To close the interview, summarize why you feel you are a good candidate for the position. Always try to conclude your interview because if you don't conclude your interview, the interviewer would not be having anything to take home. There should be one concluding statement, sir, I am the best candidate because I believe I have these characteristics which are very much required in your organization. Okay, so always try to conclude. Then do have some already prepared questions for the interviewer. Generally, you would be asked a question. Do you have any question for me? The interviewer would ask. Always try to avail this opportunity as a golden opportunity. Try to ask as many questions, not as many, 2 to 3 questions to the interviewer which are relevant. So you can just make a list of those questions. For example, how has the company developed over the past few years? Who are the company's main competitors? If I was offered this job, what kind of training would be provided? What is the reporting structure in the department and whom will I report? How many people will I be working with in the department? And if I were successful and assuming I proved myself in the position, what would be the progression opportunities for me in the upcoming time? So these are the questions which you can ask, or there may be some different other questions which you can find out from internet that what you should be ready to ask. Okay. Always remember, interview is not the right place or time to discuss your salary. So if any salary related question is asked to you, try to just answer it very smartly. Don't try to just be very picky or very nosy about it. Okay, go according to the market trends. Or if you are experienced enough, if you really have got a very good experience, then you must definitely be knowing that what is the salary structure which can be offered for the current job posting. So you can go according to that also. The best way to close the interview, you should always close the interview by asking if the interviewer has any reservation about you. अगर interviewer के मन में कोई भी reservation है, you can always ask about it. This is a great opportunity to overcome any initial objection and demonstrate your confidence and interest in the role. When you ask the question and when you conclude by this statement, the interviewer can get a good idea that you have a good confidence and you are very much interested in role. When the interview comes to end, thank the interviewer for their time before parting ways. ठीक है, उनको thank you बोलिए and then you can go ahead. So now, post interview stage, this is the last stage जो इंटरव्यू के बाद शुरू होती है. यहाँ पे आपको क्या करना होता है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू मेल योर इंटरव्यूअर और रिक्रूटर genuinely thanking them for the opportunity and the precious time. This mail can definitely do wonders, because if you are doing it, if you are following up, you are actually becoming very much interested in the job profile. Following up once or twice is a gesture of your true and genuine interest in the job and opportunity, but don't be too nosy. ऐसा नहीं है कि like you are again and again calling and messaging and mailing, sir, what's the result, whether I'm selected or not. No, don't do that. Don't be too desperate, okay? But following up once or twice is considered to be good. Do's and don'ts of the interview. So now these are the last two slides. Do's and don'ts of the interview. What should be the do's? Prepare well and practice. Always prepare. Make good first impression. Dress for success. Learn attentively and respond accordingly. Prepare smart and open-ended questions to ask the interviewer. Sell your strength and expertise. Stay calm, relaxed and poised. Do power posing, meditate and deep breathing to stay in control. These are do's which you should always try to do before interview. And then finally don'ts. Don't speak bad about your current or previous employer. Don't lie or falsify the information. Don't be overconfident. Don't act as though you would take any job or are desperate for employment. Don't show कि भाई मुझे तो job चाहिए चाहिए, I'm very much in requirement. Nobody will give you job in such situation. Don't be unprepared for the typical interview questions. जो typical interview questions होते हैं उनको पूरी तरीके से prepare कीजिए. Don't chew gum or smoke, because when you smoke or whenever you're speaking, it just simply gives very bad odor. Okay. Avoid political, religious and personal comments or discussion. Always try to avoid these type of discussions. Okay guys, so this was the summary about that. So thank you so much my dear students. I believe कि आप लोगों की समझ में आया होगा जो भी कोई बात थी. अगर आपका कोई भी डाउट या कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो, please do ask me through the comment box or through WhatsApp or Telegram. You can always reach me through WhatsApp and Telegram. You can join our Telegram channel. आप इसको, अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छी लगती है, अगर आपको लगता है कि like you really want more content, please do like, subscribe and share with your friends. And if you really want the notes of these all the topics which I have discussed, you can go through our Telegram channel where you can find all the notes. Okay, so thank you so much. Keep connected, stay connected, and all the best for your examination. See you in the next video.